Hey y'all! Today we've got Viserai versus Briar, and let's get into it. So my opponent won the die roll and they've elected to go first. And there are two things I'm testing for this matchup. The first one being running Skullcap instead of Crown of Dichotomy. Typically against Rune Blades you want some amount of Arcane Barrier, but I thought that with the Ball Lightning ban, meaning that Briars no longer runs Stings of Sorcery, I thought that maybe I don't need that Arcane Barrier into Briar. It's not like they create lots of rune chants. Usually the Arcane Barrier is just Bramble Spark Pings and Rosetta. So I wanted to try using Skullcap. The other thing I was trying out is Runic Reclamation. You see that right in my opening hand. I figured this could be a good tech into the Channel Mount Heroic Briar that we've been seeing a lot lately. So yeah, let's see how this game went. My opponent starts with creating a rune chant and coming at me with Flock, creating a Quicken token. So I can't block the rune chant, and now I need to deal with this Flock. And so we've already drawn our Runic Reclamation, and we actually have a good target for it here. It's not Channel Mount Heroic, which is what we brought it in for, but popping the Quicken token can also be pretty good. It pops a Quicken token, and if it does, I also get an extra rune chant. So I end up blocking with the other two attacks in my hand. I keep the blue in hand in case I don't draw another blue, so I can play this Runic Reclamation. Ideally, though, if we draw another blue, I can play Whisper first, and then pitch the other blue to Runic Reclamation, so I create a rune chant on the back of it, and also set up my next hand slightly. So this is nice, we did draw another blue. Yeah, so we could Whisper and pitch the Oath of the Arknight and attack with Runic Reclamation, creating a rune chant. Of course, this means we end up arsenaling the red Amplify the Arknight, but and that's always a scary proposition. Amplify is one of those cards that can just get stuck in Arsenal. But given that, so if this Runic Reclamation hits, we will actually go up to 2 rune chants, and then Amplify being an Arsenal feels a lot better. If the Runic doesn't hit, that means my opponent used a lot of cards to block it, like at least 2 cards plus equipment to block it. And I'm also okay with that. So yeah, that's what I end up doing. Yep, so my opponent only blocks with 1 card. So I end up popping the Quicken token, getting the rune chant, and now I feel pretty good about having this Amplify in Arsenal. It only costs 1 now. So Runic popping the Quicken is the reason why I'm guessing they end up blocking with Bingo. I think they really wanted that Quicken token to be able to play the Bingo, and it has go again no matter what I reveal. Okay, the my opponent follows up with a Sonata, and they hit already. Fine, a red Ravenous Rabble is a very good hit. And 1 Arcane coming at me, I can't block this. So I've sided in a more of a mid-range / tempo sort of Viserai into Briar. I feel like the OTK version would just be way too slow. Because in the OTK version, typically you want to block with 2 to 3 cards from your hand, and then your last card or your last 2 cards help you create rune chants. But if that's your game plan into Briar and you don't pressure the hands at all, they easily come at you with like 15, 16 damage turns. If you only block with 2 to 3 cards every time, you're going to be leaking damage way too quick to be able to build up enough rune chants for the OTK. So this Rebel is coming in for 2, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to block with. Definitely no point using the defense reaction here. Become the Arknight is just, it's way too strong. I'm not going to block with that. So it's either Rattlebones or Read the Runes. And just looking at my graveyard, I could pitch Become the Arknight, play the Rattlebones, and then come in with an Amplify from graveyard. But then I'm left with the Amplify in my arsenal, and I have just 1 rune chant. That doesn't feel great. So I end up just blocking with a Read the Runes. Like I said, it feels a little slow. So yeah, I don't want that stuck in my hand, and it blocks this out completely. Yeah, then my opponent comes in with a bingo. With, you know, the other bingo. So this bingo doesn't have go again right now. So if I just let this hit and reveal a non-attack from my hand, then they get to draw a card. They already have a card in hand. So at most, I'm giving them just some selection for their arsenal. So I'm not really pressured. I don't feel the pressure to block this completely. So I'm pretty sure I just end up just playing the defense reaction on this and showing them like just one of my non-attacks. Note that Snapdragons is an attack reaction, so they would need to decide whether they want to pop Snapdragons before I actually reveal a card from my hand. So, you know, so if they do that and then I reveal an attack, then the go again is wasted. So it's yeah, I'm not even afraid of that line of play from my opponent. Yep, so I go ahead and just block with a reduce, take 1 damage. I reveal the non-attack. They get to draw a card, they get some selection for their arsenal, but yeah. So I start this turn with just the red amplify from Arsenal, which I can play for free. Yeah. So this, yeah, it doesn't have go again right now. But if my opponent takes the arcane, which they do, which means I can play Rattlebone as an instant. Unfortunately, I don't have a 1-cost attack in my graveyard. So Rattlebones can't get me something from my graveyard. I could do it just for the action point and then swing on Rosetta for 4. That didn't seem appealing to me. That uses both my cards. It deprives me of an arsenal next turn for 4 damage this turn, and I decided that wasn't worth it. Yeah, I think I was trying. Wasn't sure what I want to arsenal, and end up arsenaling that become the Arknight. It's more versatile. If I'm forced to block this turn, I'd rather block with Rattlebones than become the Arknight. And then my opponent starts the turn with a Chalamant Heroic. So seeing this, I immediately want to find my other Runic Reclamation. We do have our Become the Arknight in Arsenal, so we actually can find it. And then they follow up with a Sonata pitching 2 into it, so X is equals to 1. They will look at 4 cards. Right, and they get 2 attacks from it, 2 0-cost attacks, one of them which already has go again, the Swarming Gloomveil. Since they've created an Embodiment of Lightning this turn, they've created an Aura this turn, so the Swarming Gloomveil has go again. So that's a really good pull from my opponent. Getting 2 0-cost attacks there. And then they come in with another bingo. So this pops the Embodiment of Lightning, and this has go again. So this already has go again, which means if I just let this hit and reveal an attack from my hand, the go again is, you know, it's just doubled up. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, my opponent's just showing me the other cards in their hand, since that's open information right now. That's what they got off of the Sonata. Yeah, so I'm just thinking of my turn, and I think I really want to get my Runic Reclamation to threaten this Chalamant Heroic. Either they block out the Runic Reclamation, which means that their second Chalamant Heroic turn is severely diminished, or they let it hit and the Chalamant Heroic is destroyed, and then that also diminishes their next turn. And so to do that line of play, I need to play the Become from my arsenal, discarding one of my non-attacks, and then pitch a blue to play the Runic Reclamation. So that means I just need to end this turn with 2 cards in my hand. One of them needs to be a non-attack, and the other needs to be a blue. Yep, so I go ahead and just take this 8, and I reveal an attack. This bingo gets go again. I already had go again. And then they come into Swarming Gloomveil. This one's coming in for 6. They've created Embodiment of Lightning and Embodiment of Earth. Oh no, so it's coming in for 7. Yep, so I'm going to block 6, leaving the blue and a non-attack in my hand. Yep. And now my opponent's deciding if they can play this Exude, it comes in for 7. Or they pop Tunic and then use the Rosetta coming in for 4 and Arsenal the Exude. So they do Rosetta. Which makes sense because Exude still threatens 7 damage next turn anyway. I don't think my opponent was expecting me to do a Runic Reclamation. Yep. So you go ahead and do that. So at this point, I'm definitely very happy with my choice to side in this Runic Reclamation for this matchup. Just this moment right here feels really powerful. Forcing a Briar to block is awesome. Yep, so my opponent gives me 2 cards from the hand, 2 Earth cards no less, and a piece of equipment to save their Chalmont Heroic. So off of a 2-card hand, 1-card arsenal, I'd say that's pretty strong. So I feel good about that turn. Looking at the next hand, given my opponent still has Chalmont Heroic up, I'm okay blocking 3 cards and just playing Read the Runes on my turn. That's one of the strengths of Read the Runes I found. Is that it's a really strong just 1-card hand. So over here I'm debating, I'm debating blocking equipment, blocking the equipment to play around a Swarming Gloomveil. I decide since I've already seen one so far, I don't play around another one. Unfortunately, I get punished for it. My opponent gives this go again with Snapdragons. We definitely saw that coming, but then they did have another Gloomveil. And this has go again because of the 1 damage that got through from the Exude, creating them an embodiment. So, yeah, pretty unfortunate there. This one's coming in for 6. Let's go ahead and block 3. Like I said, I'm happy just keeping Read the Runes in my hand. Cool. And then Arsenal that, and they do lose their Chalmont Heroic. If we hadn't done the Runic Reclamation, they probably would have kept been able to keep the Chalmont Heroic because they had 2 Earth cards, as we saw. Okay, so my opponent starts the turn with the Force of Nature and then her Revel and Runeblood, which doesn't do anything except give them an Embodiment of Lightning because they haven't played an attack yet. So they basically did that just to give the Snatch go again. So I'm pretty happy to see that. But of course, the Snatch having go again means you have to block it. So I go ahead and block with Skullcap and an Amplify. I am not sure why I did this. This Force of Nature wasn't fused, so the Snatch is only coming in for 4. So I could have just blocked with Skullcap and Grasp. I'm not sure why I blocked with Skullcap and a card from hand, since this is overblocking this by 1. It's pretty confusing to me. Yeah. And then my opponent comes in an Overload for 3, and if this hits, it gets go again. So I could block with his Rattlebones, but I actually think I like the idea of Rattlebonesing out either Swarming Gloomveil, like pitch a blue Rattlebones, get Swarming Gloomveil, still have 1 floating to Rosetta, or just Rattlebonesing out like Amplify, since I have 4 rune chance, Amplify will be free. So yeah, of course giving this go again threatens Rosetta hit from my opponent, but then they would need to give up the arsenal for it. So I actually let them have this go again. Because most cards in Briar deal 4 damage anyway. Like, most cards in Briar are 0 cost 4 damage. So if I block this, don't let them have the go again. They arsenal that card, it deals 4 damage to me next turn. Or they take the go again, they pitch the card in hand to Rosetta, and they deal 4 damage to me now. Either way, I don't think the go again there was doing much for them. So I just Yeah, let them have it, and then they go in an arsenal. So right now I'm debating whether I want to pop Skeletor for this Sonata. I think I end up deciding it's not worth it and just Sonata for X equals 0. Yep. And I do hit. So yeah, it's nice to hit Swarming Gloomveil because now I can just play the Swarming Gloomveil and it automatically is go again because I'll create a rune chant off of Viserai. And I think I end up taking the Swarming Gloomveil. Though looking back on it, I actually think that was a misplay. I think what I should have done, and this is one of those lines of play you kind of really only see after you've played Viserai like a lot of times and analyze your plays like this. If I took the 9th blade, I could pop Skeletor to play Rattlebones as an instant because my opponent took arcane damage from the Sonata. That gives me my 5th rune chant, and now I can play 9th blade for free. And with the Rattlebones, I could have banished the Swarming Gloomveil from my graveyard, and then I get to play that Swarming Gloomveil plus the Swarming Gloomveil from my hand, and then like pitch Morbin Skies for Rosetta or Arsenal Morbin Skies or whatever. I think that would have been a much stronger play than what I ended up doing. This turn still ended up being pretty strong. So my opponent took the Sonata arcane damage, so I can Rattlebones as an instant, and I get 2 action points. And then I find a red Amplify. Yep. So yeah, I find that red Amplify, and I get to play it for free because I've got 5 rune chants. Also Crazy Rune Chant. I'm still floating 1, so I can still play this Gloomveil from my hand and then use the final floating to Rosetta. So this still threatens a lot of damage, but I think the line where I pop Skeletor to play 9th blade obviously threatens like way more. So yeah, this Gloomveil is coming in with all modes active since I've created 3 rune chants this turn. And now I can Rosetta for a total of 5. Yeah, my opponent only took 4 there, but I remember them amending it like just in a few seconds. They should be a 5. Yep, and there we go. So that's a Lightning Surge in Arsenal. So like what I was saying in the previous turn about just letting my opponent have that Arsenal, letting them have the go again. Like we see it, it's just another 4 damage attack. So that go again the previous turn is either they threaten 4 damage on that turn or they threaten a 4 damage this turn with their Arsenal card. So yep. So I'm looking at my hand and I can't do much with this hand. So I believe my best line of play is to block out as much as I can and then Arsenal the Mordred Tide and hope that the turn after this I draw something good to capitalize on the Mordred Tide. So let's go ahead and block 3 of it, take 4. Just on the off chance my opponent doesn't follow this up with anything great, I could play Mordred Tide and then play Oath of the Arknight, which brings me up to 4 rune chants. It's unlikely that that happens. So I'm fully prepared to just block with this Oath of the Arknight. Okay, and then they pitch 2 into Sonata again. And they get the Embodiment of Lightning. Yep. And then they hit 2 attacks again from this Sonata. Yeah, so my opponent had 3 Sonatas this game, and from 2 of them, they got 2 attacks, and from 1 of them, which they didn't pitch to, they got 1 attack. It's opponent definitely had some very good Sonatas this game. Yeah, and it came at me for 2 Arcane, which I couldn't block. That definitely felt like just adding insult to injury. Or rather, adding injury to insult. Like, hey, I drew two attacks off of this card and also take 2 damage before I come at you with those attacks. Okay, so they start with an E-Strike. And that already had go again from the Embodiment of Lightning. So they choose draw a card. Definitely just very strong. And we know one of the cards in their hand is a Command and Conquer. Of course, we do have an arsenal now. They do have 2 resources floating, effectively. Like, they have the 1 floating and 1 from Tunic. So they could just follow this up with a Command and Conquer. So I know they are presenting lethal this turn. So, yeah. I'm just hoping that the other card they just drew is not an attack, so that they're forced to Command and Conquer this turn, instead of Command and Conquering next turn when I'm going to have a Mordred Tide in my arsenal. So I just go ahead and block this out. Like I said, that hand which I drew, which really wasn't doing anything. So, yeah, definitely best play I had is just to hold out this turn, Arsenal and Mordred Tide. So my opponent actually just uses their 1 floating to Rosetta, which is actually a very good play by them. Because they see they only have 1 card in hand. It's likely them going to Arsenal it. So they just save the Command and Conquer for the next turn. So that's, yeah, very heads up play by my opponent there. Yep. It does mean they're slightly inefficient with their cards, because they have 2 cards left at the end of the turn. But yeah, it means they can threaten Arsenal card. And yeah, if I didn't have to worry about a Command and Conquer this turn, my follow-up turn right here is actually really strong. So at this point, I'm looking at my equipment. I have 5 block, just 2 from grass, 2 from skeleton, 1 from creepers, if I need to. So I'm really hoping I don't need to use any cards from my hand, because with this Mordred Tide Arsenal, I could probably finish the game. My opponent does a Rabble, revealing a blue, so I take 2. Slightly unfortunate. It actually would have been amazing if I took 1 extra somehow, if that was a yellow. I don't even know if that deck runs any yellows, but if it was, then my Skull Cap would be turned on, because I know there's a Command and Conquer coming up. So they pitch to Earthlaw Surge, and then they use their Tunic and the 1 floating to Command and Conquer for 9. So yeah, I was expecting a Command and Conquer this turn, but I wasn't expecting a buffed one. Because if this wasn't buffed, I just use 2 pieces of equipment and throw a card in front of this. But given that this is coming in for 9, I'm now forced to decide. One option I have is block 5 with equipment, go down to 1, lose my Mordred Tide but keep my entire hand. But the scary thing about going down to 1 is that then if I leave my opponent with even 1 card in hand, they can just, and say the cards are blue, they can just pitch it to create a rune chant and then swing at Rosetta, and I'm dead. So I don't want to go to 1 unless I'm convinced that I can take out all the cards in my opponent's hand. So then I'm deciding, say I block with the Skeleton and Grasp and 1 card from my hand. How good is that? And yeah, I feel like if I do a yellow Morbin Skies and pitch become the Arc Knight to meet and greet, my opponent needs to block the meet and greet, because otherwise that would create 3 rune chants on hit. So that's at least 1 card from my opponent's hand. It's 1 card plus Grasp. And then I can Rosetta, which would be a total of 5, because I would have created 1 rune chant playing meet and greet. And then Rosetta comes for 2 and 2. So that would be lethal unless they spend another card on it. So with that line of play, I feel like I can take 2 cards on my opponent's hand. And I can do that without going down to 1. Like, I can block with Sonata plus 2 pieces of equipment. So I go down to 2 instead. So I don't die to the just 1 blue in hand. That would mean my opponent is forced to Rosetta on their turn to be able to guarantee a kill on me. And that's harder to do if I'm taking 2 cards out of my opponent's hand. So So that's what I was thinking. It turns out I actually made a miscalculation because they can block the meet and greet with one card in hand and the grasp, but they don't need to block the Rosetta with a card from hand. They can actually just put Tunic in front of it and go down to 1, which means they'll be left with 3 cards in hand. Which means I'll only take 1 card out of the hand with the play I'm thinking about. So that miscalculation, it actually definitely ends up punishing me. Yep, so after spending quite a long time in the tank, I end up deciding that this is the best way to go. I go down to 2, lose the Motor Tide. Yeah. Yep, and I go with that. Yeah. Armor Sky's being great, and yeah, as expected, my opponent has to block this, so they give me 1 card here plus the Grasp. Yep, the Sotomar is blocking for 3 because they have an embodiment. And yeah, so I block this completely. And then now I swing this Rosetta, expecting them to take 1 more card from my opponent's hand, but they end up putting Tunic in front of it. And they go down to 1. Yep. So now, yeah, with them going down to 1, it also means that my Skullcap is never going to be on again. So, because I mean, the only way it's on is if I'm below 1, so I'm already dead. So they just need to find a way to Rosetta me, and I'm dead. With a total of 4 cards, it's very easy for them to do that. So yeah, they just play a Revel in Runeblood. To get Embodiment of Lightning. So this CNC as go again. They're floating 1, so even if I block the CNC out, the follow-up Rosetta just kills me. So yeah, so we just call the game here. So looking back at that last turn, I wonder if my best chance was actually to go to 1, don't use any cards in my hand, and actually hope to just get lucky off of my Sonata and hit something good. Maybe I pitch the Become the Arknight into it and hope that Sonata gets me 2 attacks, maybe a Swarming Gloomveil and something else, and then I follow up with a turn that actually does take all the cards in my opponent's hand. Yeah. So that was a game, and thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.